Alright chat, so summer is finally here, and with that comes fireworks, amusement parks, and if you live over in the Midwest, temperatures so hot that the pavement starts to feel like a literal stove. And to escape the heat, people usually do one out of two things. They stay inside with the AC running all day, or they go to a water park, a place where families could relax over by the lazy river, they could cool off over by the wave pool, or experience the thrill of flying down a massive water slide. But behind all of the bright colors, summer memories, and vacation photos, there's another side to these parks that most people never think about.
No! God, please, no! No!
The very places designed for people to escape the summer heat can also become the source of complete and utter chaos. So go ahead and grab your goggles, your life jacket, your floaties, and think twice about swallowing that water, because today we're going to be taking a deep dive into the strange world of terrible water parks. You see, here's the deal. Nobody walks into a water park expecting the water to be the dangerous part. On the contrary, it's supposed to be the safest thing there. It's filtered, tested, and constantly treated with chemicals to keep hundreds of people safe throughout the day. Or at least, that's how it's supposed to work. Back in 2017, families visiting Seven Peaks Water Park in Porter, Indiana, expected nothing more than a normal summer afternoon. But instead, children started leaving the park with burning eyes, painful rashes, and skin that looked all red and bubbly, as if it was chemically burned. But as the injuries became more noticeable, it became clear that something was wrong with the water. Health officials launched an investigation and found that the problem went beyond just high chlorine levels. And that's because the park had opened without completing the required inspections. Water testing procedures weren't being followed properly, and equipment responsible for controlling the pool's chemical levels wasn't working the way it was supposed to. A multitude of guests later began to report chemical-related injuries, with 2 children becoming the main center of attention after suffering serious burns. The park was eventually shut down while officials investigated the issue. Nobody walks into a water park questioning whether or not the pool is safe. We just kinda trust that somebody else checked it for us, and then we just go on with our day. And you trust that the park is ready before letting people in. But over here at Seven Peaks, we do things a little differently. You test the water, we fix it. But the water wasn't the only thing that caused problems at these parks. In 2010, guests at a Summer Waves water park in Georgia were having the kind of day that water parks were meant for. Relaxing, floating through the lazy river, really just enjoying the summer weather. But that's until the lifeguards noticed that something was moving within the water. A roughly 2-foot long alligator had somehow made its way into the lazy river, forcing around 250 guests to immediately evacuate the pool. Luckily though, nobody was injured, and eventually the animal was captured and safely removed. You see, the curious thing about this park is that it's located in a literal island, an island that's completely surrounded by marshland. So management went on to explain that sometimes wildlife likes to take a dip in the pool. What can they say? They just work there. But there's still something very unsettling about spending an entire afternoon at the lazy river and then realizing that funny little 2-foot baby alligator that you got going on there is in fact not part of the attraction. Usually, when people hear about a water park disaster, they picture something happening inside the water park. Somebody getting injured on a ride, a problem with the pool, or something going on with the water. But in this case, the problem did not stay inside the water park. You see, back in 2023, Cherry Hill Water Park in Utah became involved in a situation that ended up affecting people who weren't even inside of the water park. The issue started when the water park drained this lazy river into a sewage system that couldn't handle it. The amount of water being pushed through caused the pipes to become overwhelmed, and then everything started to back up. Instead of flowing away from the neighborhood, the sewage started making its way into nearby homes. People living around the park suddenly found their basements being flooded with raw sewage, toilet paper, and contaminated water. Families were left dealing with damaged belongings, expensive repairs, and a mess they never expected to deal with. They weren't riding the slides, they weren't in the swimming pool, they were just a home, until the water park became their problem. A place built for summer fun ended up causing a headache for an entire community. You see, when people think about getting hurt at a water park, they usually think about someone going too fast down a water slide, somebody landing wrong whenever they do the flipperoos over at the diving board, or even like slipping or some shit. But what nobody expects is something as simple as a railing becoming the most dangerous thing at the park. Well, in 2026, guests over at a water park in Canada experienced exactly that. A group of young children were near the 0 to 60 water slide. That's up until they came into contact with the metal railing near the attraction. Then all of a sudden, they started receiving electrical shocks from the railing. 12 children, all around 12 to 13 years old, were taken to a hospital after suffering injuries from the incident. Some suffered burns, while others had to deal with the emotional impact of what happened. But afterwards, inspectors found a number of electrical safety issues that were associated with the park that very clearly needed to be addressed before the park could reopen. And you know, the crazy part is that when you think about somebody getting hurt, you think about somebody doing some reckless shit. You think, oh, they weren't following the rules. You know, they did something reckless on the slide. But in this situation, they were simply just waiting in line. And you know, it's crazy how something as ordinary as touching a simple metal railing could become the very reason why you end up at the hospital. So far, most of the problems on this list came from something going wrong with the park itself. The water wasn't safe, the equipment was faulty, or something unexpected made its way into the park. But sometimes, the biggest problem at water parks isn't the facility themselves, it's the people. And that's exactly what happened in this story. In 2019, Raging Waters Sacramento went from a normal summer afternoon to complete and utter chaos. Somehow, it all started with something as simple as a goddamn beach towel. What began as an argument between guests quickly escalated into a fight involving around 40 people. 40, not 3 people, you know, not 5, not 10. 40 people. That's a lot of goddamn people to be beefing over a beach towel, dude. Families who were just trying to enjoy their day suddenly found themselves surrounded by a massive brawl. Employees and securities rushed in, but the situation became too difficult to control. So difficult, in fact, that during the fight, one of the dudes literally became unresponsive and lost his pulse, forcing people nearby to perform CPR before he was revived. The park eventually shut down and ended up clearing everybody out because the situation at hand had simply become a little bit too dangerous. Just a little bit. A place where people show up in swimsuits, holding beach towels and waiting to get into the pool, somehow got turned into UFC 300. Just imagine all of the people that traveled to go there, bro. Instead of leaving with fun summer memories, some of them ended up leaving with bruises, emotional trauma, and for the winner, I guess he left with the beach towel. Alright, so after looking at all of these stories, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that it's kind of weird how much trust we put into water parks. You know, we never think twice about the water, we never think twice about the rides, or the people that surround you. You just kind of buy a ticket, get a floaty, and hop straight into the pool, assuming that everything is going to be fine. And for the most part, it is. But every once in a while, shit hits the fan. Whether it's bad maintenance, a 2-foot alligator, a fight breaking out, or a goddamn beach towel, or somebody just making a terrible decision behind the scenes. And just like that, a place that's supposed to be the highlight of people's summer can become the very source of trauma, or, you know, coming into contact with alligators or going to the hospital. There's no in between. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope next time you go to a water park, it's a little bit less eventful than all of the stories that we just went through. But until then, keep an eye on the lazy river. Don't drink the water. Wear your floaties, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Don't do drugs, or do. I'm not your dad.
Welcome to Ace Rodney Talks for the Superstars. Tonight, guest, the incredible